on the speed bag. Every out under pressure, no jet lag. This is greater than trophies and saluted flags. For the victory lap though. Whoa, whoa. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I stress overcome, what for? Train under trees, please pardon my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Ain't no challenge for champions and chain no fear. Yup, the champ is here, switch gears. We keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. And today, we break through. 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 I know it's lonely at the top, but that's not by speculation. But the position that I got, I climb too high to fall, work too hard to drop. Stop clocks on the speed bag. Every out under pressure, no jet lag. This is greater than trophies and saluted flags. Titles are paid, the cost is paid. Yay, I carried the cross I made. Deal with the dealer, baby, the hand was played. New level, next stage. Learn to lead as a legend. Now tell me what's my next stage, yeah. I said the champ is here, switch gears. We keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. And today, we break through. 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 For the victory lap though. Whoa, whoa. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me.
All right. Oh, we're getting the jokes in already. I see how it goes. Rude, but also very, very true. Wow. It's a fun time. It's a fun time to cover the Portland Trail Blazers. Let me tell you. Boy, that's something, all right. Just absolutely brutal. All right. All right. What's going on, everybody? Yeah. Let everybody else kind of hop in, pull up, whatever you want to do. I'm old. I'm washed. Oh, hey, look, I forgot to move. I forgot to move the crutches behind me. Ah, yeah. So it's good times. Let me tell you that. I'll kind of leave the questions here. I've got a bunch of questions to kind of hit as we get started. I'll let some more folks put in, and if you've got questions you want me to get to, Eric, good to see you. Josh, Cody, Sean, everybody who's in here already. Greg, appreciate all y'all. There's a lot to get to. I was kind of wondering if I was going to end up having to kind of hit on some of the same stuff that I have been and get a little more clarity. Could even hop along. Listen, man, there's not much hopping going on. That's for damn sure. Oh. Shout out sparkling water, though. I used to hate this stuff, but now it's actually pretty damn good. Hi from Korea. Listen, I'm about that life. So I'm getting text messages from people like, I don't know about top 4 pick for CJ McCollum. That's going to be the topic right now because of all of the stuff that I have seen today. That's the one that just. But I'm sorry. What? Listen. This is Sean. As far as like laying down with my leg in the air, this is me getting out of bed. This is what I get out of bed for right now, and I'm not even remotely joking. It sucks. It sucks. Something fierce. For everybody kind of wondering, I guess I'll get into that real quick before everybody kind of starts to pile in. The next appointment is on the 28th, so these days all blend together. So next week. So that's where they're going to have the specialist take a look at my knee and my Achilles and any other damage. So, yeah, Eric, that report cannot be true. I guess we'll just start with that. Anybody else, if you've got questions you want me to kind of get to, or if you want some stuff that you want to work through, get them in now. It's going to be plenty to talk about here. Let me make sure I've got Quick's article up too. The Athletic. Hey, and listen, in all seriousness, pay for journalism. The Athletic does have a pretty good deal. If you can afford it, definitely do it. Why can't I go dark mode on my damn PC? It's so frustrating. Oh, well. We'll kind of take Quick's article piece by piece by piece. The CJ for number 4 stuff, I have absolutely been nuts on the phone for the last 3 hours trying to figure out if there's any legs to this at all, and nobody in Toronto believes that there's any bit of truth to it. My folks in Cleveland laughed when I texted them. I haven't heard back from Houston yet, but I have a very hard time believing that's anywhere even close to reality, and Cade Cunningham, number 1, is laughable. There is just no freaking way that that's possible. So I don't know. Listen, if you said CJ and Nurk for a top 4 pick, okay. I think you could make that work. I want to go back real quick. Somebody said hi from Korea. I don't. So I get a ton of I get a breakdown of the podcast and YouTube and everything else, like where stuff comes from. I don't think I've ever had anybody from Korea before. That's so appreciate you. Shout out for that. That's awesome. Lot in England and Australia, Spain, Bosnia. Those are the big ones. But Korea, cool. Appreciate that. You can't stand Quick. Listen, Quick's good at what he does. He is, legitimately. He's the best narrative guy there is in town. And it's not close. And not even just in town. He's a very good storyteller. He'll even tell you he's not about the X's and O's. That's not what he does. He's a storyteller, and he tells narratives, and he's very good at it. Let's see. So, Quick starts out by kind of addressing the timeline piece by piece of like what has happened. He said Olshey's had 2 meetings with Dame this summer, a 3-hour meeting at the practice facility when they did the. I believe that was before they announced, or like just before they announced Chauncey's hiring. I think it was 3 days before, and then obviously just a couple of days ago in Las Vegas with Chauncey and Neil. But he just kind of lays it out there. What's happened, what's going on, what kind of is setting the table. And I'll get to the CJ for 4 stuff and everything that's getting in there. So please keep getting the questions in, and then we'll kind of circle back to stuff. The Lillard press conference in Las Vegas, I hit a lot of this in piece by piece in the podcast. If you haven't already, go download the podcast. It's a shorter one. I think I did it in like 24, 25 minutes. But it kind of breaks down each of the pertinent points that Damian Lillard hit on. And the big thing is, and this is kind of what has come out of all this and everybody I've talked to, the things Damian Lillard didn't do in that press conference was shoot anything down. He had an opportunity to step away from it. He had an opportunity to clear the air. He had an opportunity to do this, that, and the other. He did not. He did not do it. So that has to make you, and should make you, a little bit nervous. There's no doubt about that. You should absolutely, entirely feel nervous about that. Where they go from here, a lot to be decided. So let's go down. Quick breaks it down into the different avenues that the Blazers have to improve. And as we know, Neil Olshey, it's draft player retention. Free agency doesn't really matter. But as you'll see, free agency does matter because they say that's pretty much the only avenue they have because they can't get anything of value, but then they counteract that by saying they get the number 4 pick for CJ. So yes, if you're picking up on the cynicism, good. It's intended because this is bullshit. Like I am losing my mind right now. The goalposts moving back and forth. He says July 20th, the NBA draft. The Blazers do not own a pick in the 2021 draft. The first-round pick, the 23rd overall, was traded to Houston last summer to acquire Robert Covington. And the second-round pick traded to Cleveland in 2019 to acquire Rodney Hood, which, fine. Those are all good. Those are the things that make sense. And again, I don't care that they moved a second-round pick for Rodney Hood. That's fine. It's a bummer that he tore his Achilles. Shout out torn Achilles. They're murder. I hope that he has a late career recovery and he's able to get back to anything close to what he was. But a second-round pick, whatever, it's fine. They can buy those back up. And I still don't have an issue with the Blazers giving up 2 first-round picks for Robert Covington. I think it was a slight overpay, but Cov's good. He's really good. I don't have an issue with them doing that. I've been pretty consistent on the things that I dunk on Neil Olshey for. This isn't one of them. Neither is drafting CJ McCollum. Like, he's done things that are good. But the things that he has done bad, it's like he decides that's not one thing to just like drive the car off the road into the grass and scuff up the fender. He wants to drive it off the road, into the grass, into the tree, off the cliff, get out, set it on fire, and then try an insurance claim. Like, it's just, it's maddening. So this is the thing this is where we get into this. Teams are calling the Blazers and asking for CJ McCollum, and in return, offering Portland a chance to get into the top part of the draft. What's top part? Because top part of the draft to me is 10. Top 4 is the top of the draft. Not the top part, the top of the draft. There is a massive value decrease from 4 to 10, 12, 14. That's just wild. That is wild. But Portland is not entertaining these offers because it is a win-now phase and looking for veterans more than rookies to build around. If the Blazers had the top 4 pick on the table, you're telling me that they could give up 30-year-old, $33 million a year CJ McCollum to Toronto for number 4 or Cleveland for number 3 in Love. 2 teams that have zero aspirations of doing anything for the next 2 years. For a pick in a draft that is widely viewed as a top 5 draft, particularly top 3. For CJ McCollum? What? What the hell? No, they can't. If that was on the table, you would have moved it. You would have already done this. We would have never heard about it because it just would have happened. That's why. Because that number 4 pick could be flipped for damn near anybody. It's insane. It's insane. I don't know how those two things make sense. If a top 4 pick is on the table, but you're in win now mode, you couldn't flip a top 3 or top 4 pick. You couldn't flip either one of those for a veteran player? Not one? You couldn't send number 3 or number 4 plus salary filler to Detroit for Jeremy Grant to balance out the roster? You're telling me you're telling me a retooling team wouldn't want to have 2 top 4 picks in this draft? Where they could get Cade Cunningham and a guard to go with him? What? I just can't reconcile those two things. I cannot reconcile those two things. And here's the other part of it. Let's talk about Toronto. Let's say Toronto is the team, right? I don't know why I have my damn headphones in. It doesn't make any sense. I can't hear y'all. Let's talk about Toronto real quick. Toronto just traded for Gary Trent Jr. Gary wanted out of Portland so that he had an opportunity for more minutes. And now they're going to be able to re-sign Gary Trent Jr. after trading for CJ McCollum? Or are they going to swap Gary Trent Jr. out in a sign and trade? Or are they going to send Fred VanVleet out in a trade? Nothing makes sense here. And it sure as hell isn't a top 2 pick. Detroit and Houston are not giving up those picks for CJ McCollum. I have trouble believing that the number 1 would be given up for Damian Lillard. In fact, it wouldn't. They believe that much in Cade. And the value proposition for a team like Detroit in that region, it's the most valuable asset in the league. A LaMelo Ball is worth his weight in gold. That's just how it goes. Okay. So, and here's where it becomes more believable again, right? However, the Blazers are expected to try to buy their way into the second round to bolster a thin stable of youngsters consisting of Anthony Simons, Nasir Little, and CJ Ellaby. Yeah. And here's where Quick is right. Historically under Olshey, the Blazers have flourished in the second round, drafting players such as Will Barton, Gary Trent Jr., Pat Connaughton, Alan Crabb, and Jake Layman, all who became NBA starters. That's right. Absolutely. Where Neil shines is on the margins with the Robin Lopez's of the world, getting Maurice Harkless for the basketball equivalent of used ball rack. Josh, is there a credible report that names the pick as top 4? Jason Quick said it. Jason Quick went on Isaac and Rob on 1080 and said it 3 hours ago. So, yeah, it's a ton. So I saw Cooper Ching. What if Cleveland moves Sexton and wants CJ? They could have offered Love and 3 for CJ to get Love's contract off the books. They're not in any hurry to get Love's contract off the books if it doesn't make any sense. Also, I know that they are in love with Mobley. Their whole thought process right now, as far as I understand it, is Garland, Sexton if he's there. If he's not, they'll figure it out. Okoro, Mobley, and Allen. Basically, Okoro, Mobley, and Allen being so wildly athletic and mobile, good luck trying to score consistently over them. The offense is going to be a little bit dicey, but then you can probably get away with having somebody a little less defensive-minded at the 1 and 2. Also, that's like what? Okoro's like what, 6'6", Mobley's 7 foot, Jared Allen's 7 foot, and they both move like deer. And let's not get it twisted. Fight on, baby, USC. Mobley's going to be a stud. But buying into the second round, sure. Buying into the second round, getting a guy like Keita, cool. I'm cool with that. Like that's believable. Top 4 pick, not believable, folks. Oh, I'm so irritated right now. My throat's right now. So, number 1, thank you all for hopping in on these. These are our event session for me, and they're an absolute blast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We are at, I think we're at 947. We are so close to 1,000. If you haven't already, please click the little button, sub, bloop. Doesn't cost you anything. Takes you 2 seconds, and make it happen. I would really, really, really appreciate it, because once I get to 1,000, then I start being able to monetize, and I can put more time into this. So I have a ton of questions. Let's see. There were a pile of them coming through. All right, if you guys have anything else to go ahead and get in. This, I literally had to scrap everything doing all this prepping. I was like, I don't know about any of this. Is anything going to happen? And it's like, oh, what? Okay. Joshing, what percentage would you say this is just Neil trying to trick people into thinking CJ has high trade value? Oh, I'd say it's about 100% likely that that's what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to position this as in a sense that when he can't get a trade done, he can justify it, which is hilarious, because this is about the worst possible way you could do that, because number 4 is the best offer possible on the table, because I don't think Simmons is on the table. Sean Bryan, any chance we got to Batum or Lopez? I firmly believe Batum is on the table. I've got a piece coming out. I've done the free agent point guards. I've done the free agent bigs. If you guys haven't checked those out, if you're on YouTube, scroll over. I think it's like 2 of the last 3 videos of the free agency videos. So go check those out. I think each one's like 15 minutes. I break down a couple guys that make sense. I'm doing the big wings next. If you read Quick's piece, he highlights some of them, the same ones that I've got, which kind of means we're on the same track. So he did put Willie Cauley-Stein in there, which did catch me off guard. It does track as a minimum guy. That's for sure. But we'll see how it goes. Let's see. Got a few other questions in here. Oh, as far as the Batum and Lopez thing, I do think Batum's likely. One thing to consider is that Dame has often said Batum is one of his favorite teammates of all time. So if you're looking for trying to draw those lines, that's where it makes sense. Charles Hansen, what about Drummond? What about him? The Blazers should look at him? I think that's a monstrously horrible idea. And I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here, Charles. I think he's entirely washed and very overrated. He's a Jordan brand athlete, so if you want to try to figure out where he may or may not end up, there's a particular guy who owns the Jordan brand, whose name is Jordan, who owns the Charlotte Hornets. I think that's where Drummond ultimately ends up. John Sherman, if Dame is giving the Blazers 1 year to win a ring or get to the finals, the Blazers need to pull the ripcord now. Are you saying like they need to pull the ripcord as in like get rid of Dame or make changes around Dame? I think both can be like. I'm of the mindset right now that Dame's pretty much gone. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's very, very, very hard for me to see Dame sticking around. I don't think the relationship between him and Neil is great. I've heard plenty behind the scenes as far as like things aren't going good. I mean, it's pretty evident. The guy who has been on the straight and narrow for a decade in Damian Lillard is all of a sudden pretty pissed off. So I think it's pretty easy to kind of change or see where that change lies. Corey, is your opinion on CJ's trade values changed? I still think it's a pretty negative value contract. I don't think you need to attach a first to get a solid starter. I think you're getting a lesser player than you would like for him, straight across. But that's what happens when you overpay a guy by $10 million. So if they re-sign Norman Powell at $23 million, they're probably overpaying by 4 or 5. That's the Portland tax, like quite literally the tax, because living in Portland and playing in Portland, you have one of the highest. I think only Toronto is the highest, is the higher bracket. California has more punitive tax measures, but they also make up for it somewhere else in there. Also endorsements and livelihood. You're living in either LA or the Bay, so unless you're in Sacramento, and I guess whatever. But yeah, it hurts. Portland doesn't have the revenue streams to be able to earn that money back, so you got to overpay for guys. Why not go after Allen? Are you talking about Jared Allen? Because there's a reason why you can't go after Allen, because they don't have the assets to go after Jared Allen. The Cavs love him unabashedly. They love Jarrett. So I don't see that happening. If Neil's turning down offers for CJ regardless of the offer, how and why would Norm come back? Okay, so this was what. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that, man. This is I think what kind of spurred the whole article in this that he had, was it yesterday before, about Norm Powell. I think Norm ultimately ends up with the team that pays him the most, because this is the last time he's probably going to get a big contract. But, and this is a big but, that likelihood probably changes a little bit when you're talking about what the return. Like, I don't know about you guys. If there's two really good jobs on the table and one of them pays me a little bit more but wants me to do something I'm not entirely comfortable or willing to do, like, I don't know, play the 3 the entire season, me personally, I'm going to probably opt for the other option, because you're not happy going in. I have a hard time believing that the barely 6'4" dude's going to be thrilled about covering for Dame and CJ. And this whole idea, well, a coach is going to... Yes, a coach is going to change Dame and CJ's mindset after a decade. I've seen that happen so many times in the NBA. The coaches change, and the guys that have been in the league not doing something all of a sudden start doing something. Or do something that they weren't ever good at before. Sure, you can point to one particular instance. But I just don't see that happens. It's outside the realm of normality. Is it outside the realm of possibility? No. But I operate in what's likely. What's likely matters. Let's see. Norm would take CJ's starting spot. That's why. No, if they're both here, Norm will be at the 3. CJ's never coming off the bench here. Neil has him. Whoop! That is his shiny trophy that he has in the back room. I drafted him. Because with Dame, people can be like, well, you didn't... Chad Buchanan did all the work for that. You just pulled the trigger. CJ, that's all his. Go back and watch that 2013 draft video, which if you haven't, it's hilarious because they had Cody Zeller number 2 on their board. And they also laughed when they said Anthony Bennett. Ha ha ha. Too bad he didn't fall to 10. Like, oh my God, would they've actually taken Anthony Bennett? It could have. Anyways, I digress. It's crazy. Livers from Michigan. Yeah, listen, I'm okay. Like, Livers is fine. I mean, second round guys, if you get any kind of value out of them, you're doing good. And that's why I say Neil getting those guys, that's a good job. That's a really good job. That kind of thing is you love to see that. Anytime you can land those guys, you're doing great. Adrian from the Blazers Edge. Why isn't Simmons on the table? For anybody who doesn't know, Adrian is a Aussie. So Aussie, oi. I don't think that they're willing to commit. And by they, I mean the 76ers. I think it does make sense for CJ to go to Philly and Ben to come to Portland. I don't think it's a straight swap. I never have. People called me crazy because I said it would probably take 3 firsts. If you want to knock 1 first off there, and okay. But that's it. Like, he's still 25 years old and still a monster athlete, one of the best transition players in the world, one of the 5 best passers in the world, the best defender on the planet right now. Like, those things matter a ton. CJ's shot making is very good, but he also got snuffed out by 3 dudes in Denver who shouldn't share the floor with him. So if we're talking about recent playoff failures, they're both pretty bad in that regard. What about Drummond? We already had on that one. Griffin, Charles, I did the big man free agency preview. If you go check out that video, I did mention Blake at the back end of that. You can check out the rest of it. After I get done here, go click on that. It's like I said, it's like a 15-minute video. It breaks down who, what, when, where, why, and cost. I do think Blake is a viable guy, particularly because of his history with Neil Olshey. Same with Cody Zeller. Same with Nerlens Noel. The guys that the Blazers have chased after in the past. So, let's see. Does Ant Nasir have starter potential? Okay, so everybody or anybody who doesn't know me, Ant's my guy. I love him. I think he's still going to be a hell of a player, and he's still a kid. He's just now turned the age of Damian Lillard when he entered the league. Let that kind of settle in for a second. I don't know if Ant will ever be a starter. There's two things really holding that back right now. One is his level of aggressiveness and his willingness to finish at the rim. Two is his defense. Those are the two things I think he's spending his most of his time on. I've reached out to him and his reps. I hope to have them scheduled for the podcast here in the next couple weeks. Those are the things that I'll talk about, what he's working on in the offseason. Does he have the potential? Yes. Yes, I think he could be an absolute bucket getter in this league. There's not a doubt in my mind. Nasir, how do I say it? He just needs the opportunity to show that what he's got, because his last 18 months has been a real kick in the teeth. Whether it be COVID or the thing where he passed out, he's just had some crappy luck. So I just need to see him on the floor for a year and get real run. And I think Chauncey coming in could be beneficial in that regard, because Terry had a pretty strict policy of no young guys. So let's see if Chauncey is willing to take that risk. So I like Nasir. If you're looking for the positives in Nasir Little, as far as like what he projects to be, he has shown something I think is a rare commodity in the league, which is the ability to add something or change something in his game drastically different than from what it was. And by that I mean the ability to have a broken jumper to a reliable jumper. Most dudes in the league can't do it, regardless of work. Wes Matthews is another guy like that. Wes couldn't shoot to save his life, spent basically 2 years with Hornacek in Utah, and just committed to it. And he became a capable three-point shooter. If Nasir is on that path where all of a sudden he goes from a non-shooter to a not just a okay shooter, but a plus shooter, and he's shown this ability to come out of the corner off like DHOs and handoffs, little cut actions, and kind of drive from right to left down the middle and finish that left-handed like curl dunk. He's got real skill in that regard. So I think there's potential there, but I need to see a whole season of him being a part of the rotation. And if from there, then you could say maybe. I'm still very high on him because he's still very young. So, you mentioned previously the Blazers basically have to trade Nurk. What team makes sense as a trade partner? Charlotte, Sacramento? Yeah, both those teams. Charlotte needs a big in big fashion. There's no doubt about that. I've heard rumblings about them and Andre Drummond. Sacramento, listen, if you could make something work for Rashawn Holmes, make it happen. Holmes is a stud. Eric, Hollinger indicated Otto Porter Jr. could command more than the MLE. In this market, he could. It depends on which teams are afraid of the injuries. It's hard for me to say no that he wouldn't get a full MLE, but I tend to believe he gets less. I do, for just his injury history has not been great. Anytime you're dealing with feet and hips over 6'5", I worry a little bit, and I think teams do too. And get rid of Neil. Do you think Dame's gone by the end of this next season? I do not believe Dame is gone at the end of this season in the sense of like he's done immediately, but I think he's traded in the offseason next year. So, yes and no. If Dame's gone, let's take Brown and Smart with the pick and trade CJ for the number 4 pick. Here's my whole thought process if they are actually going to move Dame. Is that if they're going to move Damian Lillard, I want a blue chip player and picks. And there's been a couple different articles that have come out recently that have backed up what I have alluded to over the last couple weeks, is that you can expect the package for Damian Lillard to be James Harden-esque and then some. He's under control. He's younger. He's not a pain in the ass. that matters. So I would fully expect there to be a blue chip player, 3 first-round picks, and 2 swaps at minimum. So it could be Brown and Smart, but I would lean more towards the Ingram, Kira Lewis, 3 picks, and then 3 pick swaps. That's what I would go with. Harrison Winkler, what do you think of a trade for Sacramento to get Barnes, Bagley for Cove and Jones? Listen, if you're doing Barnes and Bagley, that kind of thing, I'd rather just trade CJ. That's kind of where I've looked a ton for this. They're done with Bagley for the most part, and Bagley's done with them. That would kind of fit the MO of Neil O'Shea in a redraft anyways. I like Harrison Barnes. I think Portland would be in a little bit of a pickle when it comes to shot making if it's Dame, Norm, Barnes, Rocco, Nurkic. Like, it's a good team. Is it better? It's more consistent, probably. I don't think that's the problem. But is it better? Maybe. Neil really thinks the starting five with Norm is good enough. If Norm re-signs, Neil won't make any moves. Yeah. Here's the thing. And this is where I get caught up on this. Well, like, they could really run it back. As I started doing the math, when you start factoring in how much the luxury tax is going to cost, it's going to be about $180 million. Dame, CJ, Norm, Jones Jr. opts in, Covington, Nurkic, Ant, Nasir, your TP, MLE, and a Ellaby, and a couple vet minimum signings. They're so far over. Let's you know what's really bad to do on stream is to do math. So let's see what the raw totals are right now for the Trailblazers. Let's go team caps and go 21-22. So the Blazers have, let's go raw numbers. Dame's new contract is going to kick in. It's basically, you just call it 40. So we'll go 40 plus CJ's 31 plus Covs 13 plus Nurk's 12, Jones Jr. 10 plus Ants 4, Nasir's 2.5, and Ellaby's 1.5. That right there is 114. I think it ends up being like 112 something. I've rounded a couple numbers up. So that's $114 million. That's $2 million over the cap. Now let's add plus 23. Boop. All right, here we go. 137. 137 plus, let's go 5.8 for the TPMLE plus, is it 3.7 for the BAE? Okay. $146.5 million, which means you are all the way over. You are in penalty hell, and you are paying $2 for every dollar that you spend over, which brings you up to about 180 when it's all said and done. It's a hard time seeing $180 million. I think it's 176 or something like that. For this team? Nah. Oh, God. Chad just rubbed in my face. He said Dodger. Yeah, Chad Doing is down in Dodger Stadium right now, and he's not even eating a Dodger dog. What a monster. Cooper Ching. I see Ant being a Jordan Clarkson. I don't think that's a bad comparison. Ant can get buckets. There's no doubt about that. Sid Manor, do you think Harry Giles can have a breakout year? He's got handles and agility. He does. He's also just, something isn't right. Like, health-wise, dude's a wonderful dude. I have nothing bad to say about him, but something just has to happen for him. I don't know if it's going to happen for him here. I have a hard time seeing him coming back as a free agent. I don't think there's a chance in hell, to be honest. Do you think we get 4 firsts and 2 swaps for Dame? Yeah, I think you could, Corey. I think you could, and get the blue chip. Like, Dame he's legitimately a top 10 player in the NBA. Teams don't trade those guys for good reason. So, we get a ton of cap space by moving Dame. If you're trading Damian Lillard, send CJ McCollum into the sun. I do not want a 30-year-old shot creator on this team. Like, no, hard pass. It was like, well, if they trade Dame, they could retool. No. Where's the nearest wall for me to put my head into? No. For the love of God, no. Have we not learned from the last 6 years? If you trade Damian Lillard, drive this thing into the ground. Drive it into the ground. Crash it unabashedly. Stop chasing mediocrity. Well, if we just take... No! Let go! Let go! Every time I see somebody say something like, oh, well, if they just retool. No! No! No, no, no. 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 They are not a destination city. They cannot do things that way. And Neil Olshey has said as much, and then he goes out and does the exact opposite, where he tries to address everything in free agency, and then he uses the excuse of, well, we're not a destination city. No shit. So why are you trying to land free agents that you know you can't get? You haven't been able to do for a decade. And sorry, I try not to cuss, and I'm just... It's frustrating. It's so frustrating. It doesn't make any sense. We talk about if Dame wants to stay, if Jody wants to pay his contract, also matters and could matter more. Listen, if you're in this game, you're in this game. You have to have the money. The league isn't going to let you operate. We always talk about salary cap and luxury tax. There's also a minimum threshold that's not that much less. I think it's like 92 million. So you got to pay to play no matter what. James Donaldson, what is taking Jody Allen so long to sell this team? Is she waiting for expansion franchise fee dispersal? Bing, ding, 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 ding. Billions. Billions with a B. Billions of dollars will be given to the league when they expand. And they are expanding. Seattle's getting a team. Las Vegas is probably getting a team. Billions of dollars that will be dispersed between the 29 other owners. Excuse me, 30. Can't math very well. So, yeah. Why would you sell the team right now? There's no reason to. There's just no reason to do it. I love Ant, but I want to keep Melo from it. I know you don't like him, but he's got vet experience. Sean, there is a lot of players who have veteran experience who don't make me want to just chew through an actual live wire. There is no reason to keep Carmelo Anthony around. None. It's just none. It would be wrong from a fan perspective to retool, but I think Olshey is stupid enough to do it. I'm not saying you're not wrong, but yeah, I don't know, guys. This is physically painful. Like, legitimately, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And I'm struggling to figure out why things are sitting there now. I had to refresh the comments here on Blazers Edge. Everybody's kind of talking about the picks from number 3 or number 4. It's no. Trying to wrap my head around the idea that Neil Olshey thinks that people are actually going to buy this crap is staggering. Yes, Sid, Blazers are in a dark timeline. I said this a couple months ago when it was evident that Dame was gearing up towards this. Like in February, he was starting to lay. Like, we got that first report from Dame, or not from Dame, from Haynes. And I had heard stuff in the background. There's rumors here or there about what was happening, what was going on, some frustration, and I was like, this is going to happen because this man is not going to make a move. Adam, if Paul is around, how long ago would Neil have been fired? 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So I was going to do an article on this. I still might. The Blazers went from having one of the biggest and best advantages in sports, an engaged, competent, and willing ownership in Paul Allen, to Dolan-esque. Like, It doesn't have the history of embarrassing stupidity, but they're sure trying. I mean, whether it be press conferences or mishandlings, it's just the last 18 months have been just stupid. And I think that's a frustration that's new because the organizations that I grew up fans of. Because for anybody who doesn't know, I'm from LA. Like, I grew up mostly LA fans outside of the Lakers. The Dodgers have been a well-run organization. That's my family's team. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan. That organization is incredibly well-run. The LA Kings were a very well-run organization. They've got a Stanley Cup to prove it. The Blazers have been a very well-run organization my almost entire life now. Now I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. Jake W., will we finally get a backup point guard this year? I think they will. I think they will try to find somebody, but I think it's pretty far down the totem pole. If you read Quick's article, and this is kind of the same thing what I've heard, they want defenders, which means they're going to get the lesser guys. Quick names Batum, Snell, Burks, Portis, Bullock, Otto Porter Jr., Torrey Craig as far as the wing types, and then center, Nerlens Noel, Daniel Tice, and Willie Cauley-Stein. I think there's a real possibility with Noel. I think that's who they'll probably land with at the taxpayer mid-level. I don't know if they can convince any of the wings to take the BAE. Batum had a good year with the Clippers. There's no doubt about that. Snell, you probably could, but his usage rate is non-existent. I think it was under 10%. I think only P.J. Tucker had a lower usage rate among guys with a minimum minutes qualify. I think it was like 500 minutes. Alec Burks, otherwise known as older R.J. Barrett. Sure, I don't know how much defense you're really getting out of him. That's kind of a weird one. Bobby Portis, again, that's not a ton of defense. Also, he's listed as a wing by Quick, which is iffy. Reggie Bullock, I've heard the Knicks are prioritizing him. I'd like him. He seemingly only signs one-year deals everywhere. It's very weird. Torrey Craig, probably more likely. The center list is kind of funny because they're going to go from having a guy whose really only effectiveness is offensive rebounds, and interior scoring and Enes Kanter to defense and no scoring. Like Noel and Cauley-Stein they're just big pogo sticks. They're good rim deterrents. But Tice, I like Tice. I think he's a good player, but and then they go on to Quick goes on to list the guys the Blazers went after with the full mid-level and fell short of. Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, and Paul Millsap, only to finish up to runner-ups to the Clippers, Lakers, and Nuggets. The Blazers ended up signing Derrick Jones Jr., beating out Minnesota, Sacramento, and Memphis. Hey, look, you beat out a team. Like, okay. It's interesting. So there's another part of this that I haven't really talked about much, particularly on Twitter yet, is the whole idea. Quick hit on, there's a paragraph in it. Where's it at? Oh, here it is. If Portland can't improve its number 2 player, CJ McCollum, the focus shift to upgrading to 3rd, 4th, and 5th best players in hopes that the sum of the Blazers' parts can swing the pendulum in their favor. Okay. So earlier, it was they're going to run it back. McCollum doesn't have any offers, but it's the top 4 offer. Yeah, you guys are picking up. The BS meters are pinging. Cooper, you're trying to piss me off. No, not Mo Harkless. For the love of God. Eric Langston Galloway's a guy that I had on my list. I'd show you guys my cheat sheet, but there's stuff on there I can't show you. So, but I had him as the last cut on my list. I don't think Cooper doesn't think personal against you. I despise Mo. I've never seen a guy with more talent care less about basketball. Where was it at? It's not an encouraging landscape for significant change, as it appears Portland is headed toward having the same starting lineup with a different supporting cast. And it's like, well, then you're not shifting your 3rd, 4th, or 5th players. And here's the thing. If you're looking at this right now, is Norman Powell your 4th or your 5th best player? if you're looking at it, to me, Dame and Nurk are your two most important players. And then you can make an argument for other situations. Yes, Cody, the nose itches are driving me crazy. It's the pain pills. It's just kind of how it goes. The little tears of joy are sitting off here. So I try to mask it a little bit, but yeah, it's kind of how it goes. It's not fun. Let me get that white glare off the screen. Let me roll back here on the questions. I know I kind of went off on a little bit of a ramble here. If the players don't get close to a championship with a top 10 player, it's never going to happen. I hate to say it. I don't necessarily agree, Eric. It's not about just getting that one. It's having the balls to go after and get the second guy, and they haven't done that. Sean, Rondo would be a nice piece. I don't think they need Rondo. I think there's plenty of other options that you don't have to deal with his nonsense because he doesn't care in the regular season. How much would the value of the Trailblazers drop if Portland was to trade Dame? That's an interesting question and something I've tried to suss out numerous times. In that I don't know where it would settle in. Would an organization, would a prospective buyer want Dame? But how much does that drop down the sale value? Now, it impacts the ownership group immediately because everybody wants to talk about, well, ticket sales and jersey sales. Here's the other part of this. Your endorsements. And this is something actually the 76ers are dealing with Ben Simmons in that these endorsements, like, what is it, Stormax is the new jersey patch. They aren't paying to be the jersey patch of CJ McCollum. They're paying to be the jersey patch of Damian Lillard. That's what they're paying for. That's what matters. So your billboards, who you're selling suites to, like you don't sell that stuff off to people for non-stars. So that's the value that I think hurts the immediate cash flow. So I think they would like Dame to be there as far as the valuation. But as far as the valuation of the franchise go, it's going to sell for over $2 billion because not only do they own the team and everything, but they own the arenas. Like that's the big thing. Now, the city of Portland owns the Rose Quarter, I think is how it works. It's very weird. But anyways, it's not a great look for a new ownership group. But if Dame's not there, then they do have the luxury of starting from scratch, right? Let's read. The closer we get to free agency, the more I'm inclined to say just blow it up and start over. I think when you've got a top 10 guy, you've got to exhaust every option. Legitimately. And that even means maybe pissing him off. Oh. This stuff is pretty good, though. I'm going to go get a sponsorship deal with some sparkling water. Excuse me. At this point where the Blazers are at financially, wouldn't it actually make sense to trade CJ for a top 13 pick and just pray and draft that player? No. Not as far as the contribution. Top 3? You could talk me into it. Top 13? No. Those guys are rarely ready to go right away. 3 years ago when I wanted Donovan Mitchell at number 10 when they traded up, that's a different situation. Damian Lillard wasn't at a podium in Las Vegas saying basically get your blade in gear. That's the difference. This is, again, a Dame trade. If Morey's offering 4 firsts and Ben, we have to take it. You don't have to. I think there's a better blue chip out there than Ben. I think I'd take Ingram over him. Number 1, Ingram's younger. Number 2, doesn't come with quite necessarily the same baggage. Neil feels as if he's untouchable, and no one other than Dame has somewhat called him on it by not committing 100% as he did before. Fortunately, the only way Neil gets fired is if Dame fully asked to. I don't know even if Dame said it's him or me if they would choose Dame at this point. That's part of the problem, in my opinion. So, trade Nurk and Rocco and Tank to the moon. Yeah, listen, if Dame's gone, blow everything up. Anybody over 25, yeet, gone. Did you hear about the Simmons and Hill for CJ and Ant trade idea? Listen, if you're moving Ant, you're gonna irk me, unless the return is exactly what I want. I don't know if it's exactly what I want. There's nothing to do to satisfy Dame. Just blow it up. Dame for Jalen before Dame gets older. Listen, he can't force his way out, though. That's the thing, is he can't force his way out. I mean, he can, but he's got too many years. If DJJ opts in, would you trade him plus a second or heavily protected first for Plumlee? No, God, no. I like Plum Dog, but no. If you're talking about a backup big, I'd rather go get one as a vetman. There's just, and then again, that's not like to throw you under here, Coop. It's the value of bigs, and this is obviously this is something I probably should do more of, is when you're talking about big men valuation in the NBA right now. You've got the guys at the top. You've got Jokic, you've got Embiid, you've got those types. Then you've got the next group, and you can probably slot Jusuf Nurkic into that. After that group, it's just woof. It falls off a cliff, man. As far as like what the actual cost value is. You can go find so many guys that can cover so many different roles for MLE or less. And in that regard, go find somebody who like does what you want them to do. Like Christian Wood was just out there for nothing. You see those kind of things pop up with bigs all the time. So I read that Boston won't trade Brown for Dame. I'll believe that when I see it. Why not sign Hassan for the minimum? Because they're not insane. Like, how do I say this politely? Hassan struggles with schemes. We'll go with that. If Hassan had the basketball IQ of anybody, he'd be all world. His physical tools and talents are out of this world. But he just doesn't read the game very well. Anyway, we can get Miles Turner. Indiana has waffled back and forth so much over the last 2 months about what they're going to do with Sabonis. And I think Carlisle is intent on trying to make that work because Turner does give you the ability to be effective from outside the perimeter. Better than Ennis. I don't know that Hassan is better than Ennis. Ennis has physical limitations, but he tries. Hassan doesn't have physical limitations, and he doesn't try, and he doesn't understand the game. Even the basketball IQ of Trout, yes. Listen, I'll just leave it there. Like, I don't want to like say anything too derogatory. Like, Hassan's a fun dude. He's a nice guy, but he just doesn't react or read the game very well. Oh, thank you guys so much for hopping in these. I'm legitimately, this is like my one escape right now. I am stuck in bed all day long with this giant tank brace. I've got it elevated on a trash can underneath me right now. On my leg, working from home on my laptop, which is just absolutely miserable. And even though I don't obviously sound thrilled, this is my release, right? This is what I look forward to. So I'm looking here in between both streams. There's over 140 of you in here right now. That's rad. Thank you all so much. This is like, obviously NBC's gone. I'm not doing the TV show. There's other things that are happening that I can't talk about right now that may or may not come to fruition. But regardless, I'm going to spend more time doing this stuff because you guys may not know this, but the TV show took up like 6 hours a night. Like, I've got to be there before the game, watch the game, doing prep during the game, waiting for us to come on air, then doing an hour, and then finishing up anything we have to do post-show. That's a long time, and that kept me from being able to do stuff like this, and that having the free flow and the ability to say what I want, when I want, how I want to say it, and not get fined by the FCC is nice. So I'm gonna commit more to this stuff. So again, thank you all so much for the support. This is just absolutely rad. I can't even begin to explain. And again, I hate doing this because I just feel like an absolute shill. If you haven't subbed to the channel already, please do. Whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Twitch, whether you're watching on Blazers Edge, it's very cool to get the support that I've gotten. I think we've picked up like 400 subs in the past month because I've actually started doing more stuff over the last 2 months. So again, thank you. I feel like CJ and Nurk need to go this offseason. CJ and Nurk pick and roll hurts me. I think that's just because you see the stark contrast between Dame and Nurk, because Dame is quite literally one of the 3 best pick and roll guards, scoring guards of all time. Hey, Joel finally made it. It's 4 a.m. in the UK. Hey, go, one of these times, man, I'll do one on a weekend earlier in the day or later in the night. I don't know. I guess that'd probably be easier for you. It's funny, as the company I work for, during the regular day hours has an office in the UK, so you would think I would get that. Don't worry, Sid. Thank you for hopping in, man. It's awesome for everybody to hop in. It's great. William Rice, CJ Nurk for Turner and Levert. Listen, I'd do that in a heartbeat. I think that will happen. Cooper, any idea what will happen when the Mariners play at the same time on the same days? And not just the Mariners, the Kraken. And so I've actually had conversations with Root, and they're working through stuff. I'm pretty confident that they're going to have a streaming option when it's all said and done, which I know a lot of people were worried about that. The folks there are really, really cool. They were really nice to us, and they're just working through stuff. This this is just a big change. NBC, Comcast had the rights for a long time, so you had to be able to figure it out. Let's see. Cody, appreciate you. Thank you. Sean, thank you. Sid, guitarist, everybody. Thank you guys. I seriously, I really appreciate it. But as far as, I saw a question in here, what will happen? Where did it go? From Cody. What do you honestly think will happen this offseason? What will our starting 5 be? I have so many conflicting thoughts about this because I don't think there's a way in hell they can pay the tax bill. I mean, they physically can, but I don't know how you can justify having the highest. The Warriors might pass them. The Warriors might pass them in tax payments at like $200 million. I'd have to take a look and see what they need to get off their books to figure that out. But it's so hard for me to see them spending that much money. I can't do it. I cannot figure that part of it out in any way. So part of that says either they're not going to retain Norm or they're going to trade CJ. I think they're more likely to retain CJ than keep Norm. If you're asking me, like, gun to my head which one I would pick, because Neil looks at CJ McCollum like is precious. Like, just no, it's not going anywhere. Like, he looks at CJ as, I think, something he's not. But I also don't think they can run Dame, CJ, Jones Jr., Cov, and Nurk. Like, it's the same starting lineup from last year, and coaching wise, that doesn't impact that part of it that much to me. Then you're losing another asset. You let Gary Trent Jr. go for nothing. It's, no matter how you slice this, it's just financial malfeasance, asset malfeasance. It's bad across the board. To be honest, ask me in 2 weeks, because I've gotten so much conflicting information and so many conflicting reports. Maybe this is just Neil putting the best smokescreen imaginable out. I don't know. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm going through some of the questions here. I had a couple tweets that I'm trying to make sure I get everybody's questions in here, because that's kind of what I do this for, is to do this. Where did it go? Screw it. I got to go this way. Search by media. There we go. Because a pile of questions came in this morning when I first put it up. This one from Nason. Has there been any info or rumors leaking to you of any Olympic tampering recruiting for or against the Blazers? Obviously nothing worthy of an article reporting. Would you have dropped those by now, but little tidbits, rumors that float around between? So, pull back the curtain a little bit. Most national media guys knew about the KD, Kyrie to New York stuff 2 years in advance. Like, this isn't like, state secret stuff. Like, the Warriors all getting together, KD and Iggy ending up in Golden State, that came apart as the 2010 FIBA team. Like, this stuff happens. Like, it does. There's no fighting against that. I haven't heard anything yet, but they also just left, and I would have been down in Vegas for Summer League, but that's what pisses me off the most, is that I can't go down there and ask questions and But I should say the collective we. I'll hear about stuff. I heard that at Olshey was in Vegas after talking to Dame, was telling people that he wasn't going to trade CJ, which matches up with what we're hearing now. So we'll see what kind of comes out of Vegas over the next couple of weeks. I've got plenty of guys that I know and trust that are going to be down there that I can run some stuff by, and hopefully I'll figure it out. This is a broader issue. Fentress and I got in a heated argument. Mostly me just looking at Aaron like, what the hell are you talking about? I know it's hard to get free agents to Portland. Is the idea of Portland not being able to track free agents always going to be true, or is that a small market thing that will hold us back? I think both parts of that are true. Okay, so this is going to be like a collective overarching view, right? I'm going to say some things that are going to piss some people off, but I don't care. You're a mostly white state. You're less than 10% of the population is black. I think it's something like 7.6 in the entire state. And in Portland, I think it's like 5.7. Let's go ahead and do the math. How many young black men from the South do you think are going to want to play in a city that is not just predominantly like white, but overwhelmingly white? How welcome would you, as a white man or woman, for those of you in here, feel in a city where you are not just a minority, you stand out, to where every time somebody sees you, they ask, is that a professional golfer? Is that an IG influencer? Because that's what ends up happening. So many people I know, like, I see a tall black dude on the street, and they're like, I wonder if he works for the Blazers. Yeah, not cool. Now, let's throw in a prohibitive tax bracket. I don't care what side of the political fence you fall on. When it's your money, it matters. So when all of a sudden you can make 20% more on your cash deposits when your check hits the bank, you have more liquid assets, that matters. When you're in Portland, Oregon, and the biggest building is what, the Coin Tower? Like, there's no real nightlife to speak of. Certainly not one where you can hide. The only one that they can is with the top of the Nines. I think one of the players owns that now. But yeah, there's no nightlife. So if you're a young, rich 20-something, why the hell would you want to come to Portland? That being said, it's your job as a general manager to figure the hell out. Stop selling what you don't have and sell what you do. That's my frustration. I'm well aware of the limitations. That's the issue. It's really, really weird. Speaking of really weird, somebody's copying and pasting comments. Get in a wheelchair. Listen, man, I'm trying to avoid the wheelchair. Ned, expect the Blazers to give Max Everett match the best offer for Powell. They could. They could. I'm not saying that they won't match the best offer for Powell. I'm saying I don't think there's a strong likelihood that Powell comes back if he's playing the 3. CJ's on the block for the best possible small forward they can land. Okay. That's fine. I'll believe it when I see it. And I don't think he's going to diminish trade value, and he's not going to convey this stuff. He also hasn't been able to land a single trade of consequence in a decade. So as close as he may play the cards to his chest, he's maybe playing them a little too close. This from Joey. Expecting to change the top to deliver Dame the help that he needs. I said this in the podcast of the day. I don't think Neil's getting fired anytime soon, barring criminal misconduct. Legitimately. I don't know what he's said or done to convince Jody and the Vulcans that he's the guy to steer the Blazers through this, but if they are going to trade Damian Lillard, I sure as hell don't want Neil Olshey the one orchestrating that change. I'll say that plainly and bluntly. Are there any okay, this is a good question. Are there any Powell sign and trade options like Philly did with Butler to bring back Richardson? That's probably, it's not a saving grace, but it's something you can certainly look at. Sign and trades are really strange, especially for Portland right now, because that would put them in, or the hard cap, basically. They can't go over the apron. Bro, this is criminal misconduct. No, I'm talking like actual criminal actions. I think that's when the league would step in and be like, nah, he's got to go. Because I don't think that they care in that regard. This from Ball Drogo. If a CJ trade occurs this offseason, when would it happen? What is your go for broke or more just a future trade scenario? Those are a couple of different questions. Cooper, I'll get to your question. I've got a pretty clear answer on that. Moderates can make your life easier. Listen, unless things get way out of hand, I'm not going to keep stuff out of. But Cody, if you want to be a mod here coming up, and as I do more of these, we can definitely talk about it. If a CJ trade occurs this offseason, when would it happen? I tend to believe that it'll happen at or around the draft. So Rodney Hood, when he got his deal, that kind of came out of nowhere. Well, it didn't come out of nowhere. It was a pre-agreed to deal when he got here. And they gave it to him even though he blew his Achilles. Why? Because they had to honor a deal. The same thing with Enes Kanter when he came here. He started getting minutes and eating them up. The same thing with Carmelo Anthony getting guaranteed minutes and touches. That's how they got those guys to come here. So, that being said, the league frowns upon that big time. Massively. It's breaking a lot of rules. So, you get around that by trading CJ before you sign Norman Powell, and any risk of impropriety can be dismissed. Oh, no, we signed him after in the free agency period because he's already gone. So we have a clear, line. That's just to keep the league off their back. Could someone please? I can't say that. But let's come on, guys. Cooper, do you think Neil is respected by most other GMs? No. I think he has a couple good relationships in the league. I have heard from pretty well-placed sources that otherwise he is not well-respected around the league, and that is part of the problem. So, why trade our backcourt? We put up points. The offense has never been an issue. It's defense, and those two can't stop anything. That's a massive issue. Let's go ahead and take a look at the NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks. Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, 2 All-NBA caliber defenders. Pretty good. Joel, you think playing with Dame could attract players? Would playing for Chauncey attract? I'm not convinced. It's pay me, play me. The thing that blows up your spot when it comes to like looking at guys is like, these are my heroes, these are my guys, they play for the love of the game. Most do, in the sense of like, yeah. I'm trying to think of the proper way to phrase this. Some of you may love your jobs. I like my job. I'll give you a personal story. I've worked as a private contractor business analyst for over a decade. COVID wrecked a contract that I had with a very large company for a lot of money. I ended up going to work for a grocery store in the meantime, and it was hell. Miserable. I hated life. It was a major kick in the teeth. I went from making very substantial money and a very comfortable livelihood and living my dream to a job that made me miserable. I got out of that hell as quickly as I could. And I took a job where I didn't make as much money, but I was a lot happier. But is it what I really, really want to do? No. But I still show up. I still do it. And I say all that to say a lot of guys love playing basketball. But for most, I think, it's about the money. And that's not a bad thing. Because you're talking about not just life-changing money, you're talking about generational wealth. And we sit here like, oh, if I would do that, I would take less. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing, because nobody does that. Like, Dirk is the only guy who's done that. And that's the thing. And there's a reason why, if you see me on social media, I'm always say, team, get the bag. Because you only have so many years to get the money. And so if somebody says, nah, man, I'm not about that life. Thanks, Portland, but no thanks. I'm going to go get my money. Or I'm going to go play where I want to play. I don't get mad. I don't get mad at LaMarcus Aldridge. I don't get mad that Gary Trent Jr. says, I don't want to play behind C.J. McCollum because these are my prime earning years, and I want to go play somewhere where I can get more minutes so that on my next contract, my big contract, I can get paid. And so with Norman Powell, this is probably his last time to get that big contract at 28 years old. This is probably going to be the biggest amount. Get the money or take less money and be where you want to be in the prime of your career. I think those are the options. And I don't fault guys for that, for chasing money, ever. But as far as like playing for guys or with guys, like playing for a coach that you want to, like, here's again a little peek behind the curtain. Miami, they run a boot camp style workout, and I have heard from numerous players, there is not a chance in hell I'm going to play there. They have a type of player that they want. They measure guys' body mass. Like that's a real thing. And they dog you. They work you. There are guys who are like, nah, that's not the kind of life I want to live. I want to go Ray Felton and have my cupcakes. Different teams run things different ways. And that's what I think you have to take into consideration. Like, the Blazers rolled out the red carpet for Norman Powell when he got here. They I think it was Quick wrote an article about all the things that the Blazers did. And they did. And I believe that they genuinely want to retain him. But is he going to take that money in that situation where he's not comfortable or he's playing out of position? It's a weird situation. And as far as like playing alongside Dame and playing for Chauncey, I think that helps. But those guys have also got to be active in that recruiting effort. So, James, cap hell is one more reason for Neil to get fired. No reason to listen. CJ's overpaid by $10 million. I don't mind overpaying guys. I don't. But it's just kind of how it goes. Do we not have like a 15th defense in 2017? So here's the thing when it comes to defense. I don't like ratings all that much. It's about how effective and how much you can dictate in the game. I don't think teams really cared or respected during the regular season how the Blazers have gone about really anything for the last couple of years. You just play your shell defense and it's enough to get you through. Defense is more obviously more important come playoff time. When the Blazers had their trash defense this year, and they were awful with Dame, Gary or Norm, whoever it was in that spot, and they had Ennis out there starting with Covington and whoever they decided to put at the 3. You had 3 negative defenders on the floor at any given time. It's part of the reason why I wasn't crushing Terry Stotts. People are like, oh, if it's a scheme, there's no bleepity-bleeping scheme on this planet that gets Enes Kanter, Damian Lillard, and CJ McCollum on the same page and effective. They're not good on that end of the floor. They're not. I want that to like fully hit for people. There's nothing you can do to change that coaching-wise. Do I think Chauncey can help a little bit? Yeah. I think he can help with the better guys, and I think he can help develop the young guys. But you're not going to change a 10-year guy. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all that often. It's just there's no reason to buy into that. Get the money now or get hurt and you out of the NBA. Yeah. You just never know. You never, ever know. Gresh, what are your thoughts on Chauncey's coaching staff that's been put together so far? Who else do you think could be added? Is Kim coming back? I don't think Kim Hughes is ever coming back on a Neil O'Shea team. As far as the coaching staff goes, I've lit on this a little bit. Scott Brooks as a head coach, I think, is actually one of the worst head coaches in the league. I don't think a lot of coaches are really bad. I think Brooks has been really bad as far as scheme. And the one thing I always ask people when you're talking about coaches, what is their system? What do they? And anybody you get to Scott Brooks and you get he empowers his players, and you're just kind of like, you mean he has Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, those types? Like, it's not a whole lot of like scheme. You know, you're not like, oh yeah, I know that they run a lot of DHO or pick and roll action, or like it's really loose. Like people who get nuts about how Terry Stotts doesn't run an offense, watch Scott Brooks' teams. You'll lose your mind. As an assistant, he could be fine. He might be the perfect guy to dot I's and cross T's and set schedules and do all of the administrative stuff that head coaches need to have somebody do. That's fine. Curry, the new female coach, I have no idea. I've tried to reach out to a few people to get some stuff. I'm still waiting to hear back. I don't know. I know Pargo was on Stas' staff. He just got hired by Carlisle in Indiana, so he's not coming back. Tibbetts has been hired, so I don't think any of the other guys. Maybe Yim stays. I hope he does. Yim's a good dude. I saw Ray Felton at Buffalo Wild Wings downtown, and dude can throw down, just not on the court. Yeah, listen, I've got a couple Ray Felton stories that I can't say online, but if you ever see me outside, I'll tell you a couple. Speaking of throw down, I've damn near killed this thing. What's this, liter? 1 1/4 liter. Quarter liter. 1 1/4 liter. Not 1.5, not 2, 1 1/4. That stuff is tasty. I think a rebuild is just what we need to do to scrap everything. It would suck for 3 to 4 years, but we'd be better for it. Yeah, Dylan. I think they would. I think you have to give it the absolute no BS. Please, God, figure this out. Try. If you're watching on Blazers Edge, give me a sec. Let me refresh the questions on there. It's the one downside is I don't. Oh, God, there's a lot of questions in there. Sorry, guys. I neglected you in there. Only if we can trade the pick for Jeremy Grant. I think we'll be able to appease Dame. Would love Scotty Barnes, but there's a lot of the draft stuff in there. If you guys are watching on Blazers Edge, again, thank you guys. That's obviously where everything kind of lives. I guess I'll take this opportunity real quick. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We are up to 957, 43 more to 1,000. 43 more to 1,000. It's the home stretch of monetization here. Rogers, Powell leaving us. We'll know pretty damn quick. So free agency opens up in a little more than a week. It's great. A lot of the questions you guys have are going to get answered very quickly. That's the thing. That's good and bad news. So we're going to get a quick turnaround. Your name is in Korean, so I can't see it in the chat. But I'm just going to say, is it possible for us to get Tim Hardaway Jr.? Maybe, maybe not. It depends if you're looking for a sign and trade or if you're going to move CJ for him and other parts, Dwight Powell, like something along those lines, Josh Green. Maybe. It would be easier to convince me if you're going to do a trade with the Mavericks. It would be easier to convince me to go after Tim Hardaway Jr. and other players than it would be to convince me to take back Kristaps Porzingis. Like I think Porzingis is a net negative. Try keeping Powell, get rid of Nurk, trade CJ for Bulls center. Listen, you're speaking to my heart here. Vucevic is my guy, Mr. USC again. Vooch is a bucket getter, but the Blazers need some defensive players. There's no doubt about that. But I love Vooch. I do. Before the Blazers got Nurk, Vooch was a guy I wanted pretty handily. As a screen nightmare, Neal re-signs Myers for 4 years, $55 million. I don't think that's happening. No, don't trade Nurk, Blazers fans. Stop watching highlights. Listen, I don't want to trade Nurk just to trade Nurk. The reason I have openly talked about and suggested trading Jusuf Nurkic is the financial aspects. He's on a $12 million deal, which they should guarantee here very shortly. I believe it's next week is the deadline. But it works as an expiring deal. And do the Blazers genuinely believe in him to be the center of the future? Like, is he your guy? The injury concerns are real. If you try to figure things out with him involved, by all means, I love Nurk. I think I've got 2 Nurk jerseys over there. But I think it's something worth visiting. That's the thing is I've always said everybody but Dame, and that means everybody but Dame. That means my young guys, Ant and Nas. Like that's just the way I look at things. And they stay hydrated when I'm pain meds. Listen, I've gone through probably close to a gallon of water a day. On top of that, it's nuts how much water I've been drinking. Do you see the Blazers trading into the early draft, late draft, or not at all this year? I genuinely believe that they're going to buy a second-round pick. I said that for the last couple weeks before quick report out here. I think they will because it just back into the roster. It's the cheapest way to do it, and they have the money. What was Yim's specialty here? So Yim was a video guy and a player development coach. Just all-around good dude. So, Eduardo, what's your favorite sparkling water flavor? Right now, I'm drinking the Crystal Geyser. This is the orange. My wife and actually my dad, weirdly enough, suggested the AHA sparkling water, and it's the orange and honey that I like. I think it's orange and honey, peach and honey, and then my wife likes the grapefruit orange, and then I did a click list because, yeah, I can't go grocery shopping. Although, here's a quick funny story while I'm sitting here drinking. My broken ass. I got on the little cart at the grocery store the other day because I had to get out of the house. And I got halfway through the store, and the battery died. So, not wanting to be a total disaster, I got up out of the chair, crutched my way all the way to the front of the store, got a new cart, swapped the groceries then in my old cart in my new cart, and drove off and left the old cart there. I don't know how you guys would have handled that, but I was not thrilled because I could not have been further away from the front door at that point in time. And crutching right now is physically painful. Like, it's just a nightmare. Nurk has to go. He weak. I don't know if he's weak. Awful strong. Now, he maybe finishes inconsistently around the rim. That part is sure. Nurk is the only reason we made the playoffs this year. Listen, he's the anchor of the defense, and I don't think he gets enough credit for what he's capable of doing. I am pro Nurk. Like, don't get it twisted. I genuinely believe he's a top 10 center in this league, probably top 8. That's where I think the divide breaks out. He's not unreplaceable, though. Like, the drop-off between, let's do this real quick. The drop-off between the top 8 centers in the league and the next group, and the difference between the top 8 wings in the NBA and the next group is substantially different. Like, your return on investment for bigs is a lot easier to recoup than it is at the guard or wing positions. What is the best package you could get in return for a Nurk trade from Dylan? So this all depends on which way you want to go. Like, are you comfortable signing Nerlens Noel as your starting center because you've got offensive firepower everywhere else, then you can trade Jusuf Nurkic for a 3 or a 4. You can put him in a package with CJ. Or you could trade him for another big. I am not typically one who likes to trade big for small. I think you end up getting you get bit in the ass in that regard. That's just kind of how it's been throughout NBA history. But if you can figure it out, that's lime and green tea. Josh, thank you. That's actually my dad's favorite. Bubble Nurk was incredible. Okay, Bubble Nurk in like the regular season, like 8-game bubble, he was gassed by the time they played the Lakers. I agree, he was a monster. But let's not forget when Nurk went down before he broke his leg, he was 18, 12, 4, and 2. Like, that's a really good player. That's a top 5, top 6 center in the league, and that's major impact. But the injuries, that's a real issue. That's a problem. And that's part of the issue with Jusuf Nurkic is you can't count on him. You sure as hell can't count on Zach Collins. So they've had this front court that they just haven't been able to count on. And this is so trite and stupid, but availability is one of the best abilities. And Nurk has missed a significant amount of games. And he's not getting any younger. So, listen, and as far as like where he fits in the pecking order, I think Nurk is the second most important player. Like you've seen Gary Trent Jr. step into C.J. McCollum's shoes and be effective. You've seen Norman Powell step into C.J. McCollum's shoes and be effective. It's much easier to replace guard scoring than it is high level center play. There's no doubt about that. Like you watch the NBA playoffs this year. If you have a capable, good to great center. Like DeAndre Ayton was phenomenal until Giannis decided to show him I'm that dude. Ayton is going to be a massive issue for teams going forward because he can cover anybody. And his finishing percentage outside of Game 6 was, I think they said he could have missed 24 straight shots and still would have finished with the highest field goal percentage in NBA playoff history. God dang, that is insane. Whiteside was an intimidator, so I don't want to get too much back on Hassan, but Whiteside's a great shot blocker if you go at his chest. If you gave him one pump fake or one subtle shoulder fake, he was cooked. If you ran at Hassan Whiteside, you were bona fide stupid because he was going to send your stuff every time. Say it again, so no more Blazers Outsiders. Yeah, as far as the NBC version of Outsiders, it no longer exists because NBC Sports Northwest will cease to exist in a month, 2 months. I think that's when they announced it was going to be done. So, yep. There's other things still in the works I've kind of alluded to and highlighted, but I can't talk about it because it's not agreed to or signed on yet. So, but I hope to be able to announce some stuff here in the next couple months. It's not because I'm not working on anything. That's for damn sure. What would Blazers be looking for in the second round? Honestly, I think probably a big, cheap body big. Just somebody they can put out there and be like, please, God, go give us like 5 minutes. Do you think Bobby Portis might take up to the full MLE? So he definitely did not hurt his value in the NBA Finals. That is for damn sure. I joked about it going into the playoffs that he was a big-time Blazers target, and he probably drove his value up. That was like Zach Collins in the NCAA tournament level stuff. Like, oh, my God, just went bonkers and did stuff that, he hadn't done on that stage before. I don't know if he gets full MLE, but the kicker to this is there's a lot of teams that are going to have access to the full MLE, which might flood the market and give guys who typically don't get it those levels. That and the lesser, like higher or lower tiered level of like big time free agents might drive some guys who would be getting more, or excuse me, getting less normally, would be getting more here. Excuse me while I untie my tongue. I would guess they want wing players or backup centers. Yeah, I think that's where they're going to lean. Where's Ben Simmons playing next season? Ultimately, I think they run it back in Philly one more time just because they're not happy with the offer and they want to sit on Ben and at the outside opportunity that Damian Lillard becomes available. I don't know if that's a good idea, but he's young enough where they can ride it out. But also, Embiid's not getting any younger, so they're walking a fine line in that regard too. So. Any trades with the Kings make sense for both teams. I mean, it's not like the Kings don't have good parts. Like Harrison Barnes. Listen, if I can get my hands on Tyrese Halliburton, I love Hallie. Rashawn Holmes would be a perfect big on this team. I'd buy low on Bagley if the price is real cheap. But yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunity there. And let's be honest, the Blazers have dealt with the Kings more than anybody in the Neil Olshey era. So I think that's kind of where it's at. These are the same comments that come up over and over again. That's kind of why I leave them general. Who do you think we can trade for Nurk for, and who can we get CJ for? I should just kind of like tag those in a autofill in the stream chat. It's going to be interesting. Which way they go with this stuff, right? It's the best player that you could possibly imagine getting CJ is Ben Simmons. And I just don't think you could do that without adding a significant amount of draft capital. I think at least 2 first-round picks. 2 first and maybe a young kid. Like, I know everybody was down on Ben. As far as Nurk, I've reached out to a couple agents and a couple team execs that I know, just kind of and everyone says there'd be a market for him, but what that market is, I don't know. Is it a sign and trade? Is it a team that's maybe looking to get off some money in a year, but wants a good big, wants to get a look at him before getting his next contract? It's just Cooper. That's a hard no. That's a hard no, man. No. Not at all. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, so Draymond Green. That's a guy we haven't talked about a ton. I like Draymond in a vacuum. And if you could keep CJ or Norm in that regard, if you had Dame, Norm, Draymond, I'd want to get a 3 that a Doug McDermott type, like just pure bucket getter. Like the defense is kind of optional because they need some additional shot creation, especially if it was Draymond and Nurk. Now, if you got Draymond and somehow you flipped Nurk and got like a Miles Turner, as I saw somebody Aaron in here, yeah, Sabonis. It's Draymond's not square peg, round hole, but I think you need to thread the needle a little bit more carefully than you would with Ben Simmons, because even though Ben won't shoot, he's still a transition monster, and he's still, again, one of the 5 best passers in the league. One of the things that I think it's overlooked is that Ben doesn't shoot threes. Ben has created more 3-point assists than any player in the NBA since he came into the league by a substantial margin. He's still 6'10". He's still the best defender in the league. And oh, by the way, he's still 25. Like, that matters, man. Like, it's hard to kind of quantify that. How many minutes did Ant and Nas get if they stay? That's a good question. So Ant started to get more confidence with Terry, and I've heard that Chauncey has mentioned him a few times. I haven't done my minutes chart yet because I don't know what the roster is going to look like. I'll do that once we get probably the top 12 guys locked in. Based on what I know and what I expect, Ant's going into a contract here. They're going to want to get him minutes. He's going to want to get minutes. I think the number they probably land on, unless there's a significant change, it's probably 20 to 22. He started to eke up towards that point last year, towards the end of the year. Nas, I think, will slide into what Ant was last year, like around that 12, 15, minute and then kind of adjust from there. But yeah, I think those guys will both be in the top 9. I don't think that's shouldn't be any shock. How do you feel about Sabonis and Miles Turner from Indiana? Listen, I'd take Turner in a heartbeat. I'd take Sabonis in a heartbeat. True story. Last year before, so before COVID shut down the NBA, I walked out of the media room and I looked over my shoulder back behind me and I walked right into baby Sabonis' chest and I bounced off him like a freaking rag doll. That man is built like a truck. Just keep in mind, I'm 5'11", 270 pounds. I am not a small individual. And I went, boonk. So I can't imagine getting caught by that over and over again on screens. He's an incredible playmaker. He's slow-footed defensively, but he's a fun player. Like, I enjoy watching baby Sabonis play. Turner, he just needs to stay healthy and figure out his three-point shot. Like, he needs to figure out what he wants to be. But he's a lockdown defender, and I think that'd be a great move for Portland. Forrest Quick says they're going to run it back. We kind of hit on that in the first 45 minutes of it. I think it's a leverage play, but I think it's the leverage in the opposite way. I think it's a CYA, and for anybody who doesn't know where, it's cover your ass for Neil Olshey. I think that's what I was talking about. Hamad, listen, I as far as other groups out there, everybody can go do their own thing. I'm not going to bash anybody. I'm not going to throw anybody out there under the bus. If you like going over there, go over there. If you like content here, come over here. If you like both, do both. I'm not going to kind of get in the back and forth. It just kind of is what it is at this point. If Nas can hit threes, he's going to be a good role player for us. Yeah, no, I mean, and I talked to Nas last year when he spent a ton of time working on his jump shot, took over 10,000 threes. We broke, if you want, there's a video in here. When we're done with the stream, go look for the interview I did with Nas. We broke down his jump shot, like the changes that he made and what made it significant and what allowed him to be more successful. Like, he puts in the work. I believe that Nas is going to be an effective player. Jeff Emerson, CJ for Jonathan Isaac and Bamba. Listen, man, you're probably thinking that you're upsetting me. You're not. So my top guy in that draft that I thought Portland could get up to was Jonathan Isaac. I love Isaac, and the fact that he's had these injuries has been a major bummer. He's a really unique player. He's an incredible human being with stupid size. Bamba was a guy we had at Hoop Summit, and so Team USA was practicing at the practice facility, and I was sitting next to a bunch of different NBA scouts, and they were going left to right in front of us, and we were on the right side floor. I was looking right at, even with the rim. So just pretend you're sitting courtside, like even with the rim. And Bamba erases this dude at the rim from the weak side out of nowhere. Like, he just ate this little floater up, knocks it out to the 3-point line. He comes down, takes 2 steps, and sends the 3 away too. Every scout in that room just went, God dang. Like, it was just like, wow. That is real size, real length, real athleticism and timing. It was insane. Bamba has surrounded himself probably with the wrong people, and then he got COVID. Like, those are not two related things. Don't get it twisted. I don't want to say. I'm saying he's probably put himself in a bad situation off the floor as far as work habits. But now, like, how healthy can he get? Like, that matters. But I like the idea of Mo Bamba. If you're talking about a redraft guy, like if you want to like Neil and I agreeing on the same page, like on a redraft guy, yeah. Like if that offer is on the table, I think it's risky, but I also think it would be a hell of a move. Yeah, Isaac and Bamba are guys that I think could really turn it around. That would be a major risk, though. There's no doubt about that. If you already answered this question, I apologize. What's your ideal offseason? Aaron, don't apologize. Like, I've been going for almost 2 hours, so stuff's going to get answered again. I'll try to kind of group that in. My ideal offseason would be trading CJ for Simmons, trading Nurk and probably Covington for more viable floor spacers. I'd go with Dame, Norm, Ben at 1, 2, and 4. I'd like to get a Miles Turner type, a floor spacing 5, floor spacing rim running 5, and then at the 3 again, I'd like to get. I want to say like a McDermott type, a guy who's just going to get you buckets, because you've got 2 defensive players of the year in Simmons and Turner, or capable guys. Powell's a plus defender. Dame's so-so. If you could find somebody that could split the difference, Bogdanovich can't. You need somebody who's going to be at least decent at the point of attack defensively, so maybe not a McDermott. Harrison Barnes, probably. Like, that's like your optimal fit. Like a realistic target. I think that's probably your best possible way. What do you think about bringing back Chief if he doesn't have a contract? He does. He's got a $10 million contract that he just opted into, and he's been hurt. Chief's just cashing checks at this point, so, which is cool. I guess for anybody coming to the stream late, get that money always. They need more help at the 3 than anything else, in my opinion. So, it is what it is in that regard. But make sure I'm not missing any other questions. I'm going to wrap it up here in a few minutes. I've seen some DeMar DeRozan stuff. Jeff, you're reading my feed. Lowry Marketing. Again, a redraft guy, if they can get him at the right price, sign and trade kind of deal, you wouldn't have a hard time pitching me, because I think that Lowry was in a bad position with his first couple coaches. I think they're better now, but I think he soured on things and he was injured in between. I'd like DeMar in a roundabout way, but I don't know if that really makes sense for Portland without getting another defender in that regard. And make sure I'm not missing any questions here in the Blazers Edge chat. I think everything else is up to date. The one thing is it's hard to keep that one accurate. I like DeMar. Again, shout out USC guys. I'm all for it. But I don't know if that necessarily changes the overall standing of the team too much. I think it does help because DeMar is an underrated creator, but he's more of a 3-4 than a 2-3 now. He's just lost a step. I thought I saw somebody in here. Dylan, what if we got Tobias in exchange for CJ? If they didn't have Covington, I would be okay with that. I don't think that that's a good fit. I don't like Toby at the 3. The same reason I don't like when they made that move and traded for Covington. I had a lot of people like, oh no, he's going to start at the 3, and it was like, no, he's going to start at the 4. He's 100% going to start at the 4. And it was the same thing about people saying that Zach would start at the 4. No, he's a 5. The Blazers they have this thing where they just like sticking guys or getting guys that at positions that they don't necessarily need, or playing them out of position. Norm at the 3, Covington at the 3, Zach at the 4. It's just like it's not like, I know we're positionless, but you need to put guys in positions to be optimized. Toby playing the 3, not good. Toby playing the 4, his numbers are incredible. Like, it's just kind of, yeah, you can't switch Rocco to the 3. You take away all of his fundamental ability. That's what makes him good. So Covington's not great at the point of attack. He's got big, heavy feet. Like, if you go back and watch game tape, watch nothing but Covington and how he moves his feet, particularly when he's above the free throw line defending and not able to sink low into the corners. He's slow flipping his hips, and he's slow covering ground after he flips his hips. Now, put him in help side or down low in the corner. He doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to flip his hips. He doesn't have to cover a ton of ground, and his timing's immaculate and impeccable. He's got an incredible wingspan, baseball mitts for hands, and just a great IQ. And that puts him in a position to be very successful. If not the best help defender, because that's probably Giannis, he's the second or third best help defender in the entire NBA. So if you put Covington at the 3 and you decide you want to put him, above the free throw line defensively and make him a point of attack defender, you're putting a worse help defender in Toby in a help defense position who's also not a point of attack defender, and you're losing the utility that makes Robert Covington good by not putting him as a help defender, if that makes sense. So that's like right now as the roster sits, Norm's probably their best point of attack defender. You can make an argument for Derek. I think Derek splits the difference between point of attack and help side. I think he's really good chasing over the top as a chase defender and help pick and roll coverages because his wings are just dumb long. Like he gets such a good contest from behind as a trailer. It's incredible. But Norm does the best job of staying in front of guys. What about trading CJ the Knicks for picks and a young guy and create a huge trade exception? Listen, anytime you're talking about getting trade exceptions, cap space, and Neil Olshey, I don't care. He's shown that he is not good at managing those assets. I mean, everybody, if you want to believe that this is the time, let me go get you. I've got a timeshare I want to sell you, and I'm not trying to sound cynical. I am, because I've seen it for 10 years. I'm done buying that. I can't buy it. For my sanity, to get my brain wrapped around it, I can't accept that. It just has to happen, and then I'll be proved wrong, and that's fine. I will be totally fine with that. Grapefruit, thank you all. Thank you so much. Great content. Thanks a million. Hey, listen, guys, I appreciate it. Like, more than you guys know. I actually am going to wrap it up here because it's been almost 2 hours. I always tell myself I'm going to go a little bit more than an hour, and I usually go 2 every time. So, Thursday nights, 7 p.m., Blazers Edge, YouTube, Twitch, twitch.tv twitch.tv/the_Moosin. With my pending surgery, I'm going to be playing some games too. So if any of you guys are gamers, I'm on the Xbox. Hit me up on Twitter. Again, it's the_Moosin. Send me a friend request on Xbox. That's cool. I got no problems with it. I'll probably be streaming some games coming up. Definitely will be once Battlefield drops. So don't get it twisted. Please subscribe to the channel. We are at... I hate shilling like this, but we're 958. Excuse me, 958. So we are 42 away from 1,000 right now, which is insane. Thank you guys so much. I truly appreciate it. This has been an absolute blast. I'll have another podcast coming on Sunday, and then more free agency talk as we start getting closer and closer for this. Dylan, Ahmad, Aaron, everybody who's in here, John, Sean, Greg, anybody, Cody, anybody that I'm missing, Corey, thank you guys all so much. I appreciate you guys more than you know. If you guys have got additional questions or if you got stuff up at Twitter, on Twitter, at Danny Marang, you can DM me. You can hit me up directly on Twitter. My DMs are open. They always are. If I don't see it, don't think I'm blowing you off. I haven't seen it. It's okay to be like, hey, just want to see if you saw this. Seriously, it's okay. Sometimes it gets buried either in my DMs or in like the back section of my DMs, especially since I got verified. It like filters them out a bunch more. Like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. And as I said before, the new podcast feed will be coming here shortly from Blue Wire. You'll see a little bit of a rebrand. The only difference is for you guys will have to subscribe to a new feed. It'll still live on Blazers Edge, but I'll have full control of it. So that's really the only difference. And as far as you guys care, you don't. Just click to the new feed. Until then, guys, I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here, and we'll call it a night. Y'all take care, all right?